200,000 Russian soldiers killed in Ukraine. Grieving families are paying $30 to $60 to raise the dead as AI clones. These memorial videos spread on Telegram right now, but Russia has no legal right of ownership for the dead. The Orthodox Church says the soul can't be copied, and the Kremlin seems to encourage it. I'm David. This is the paradox we're exploring. Somewhere in a Russian cemetery or mass grave, the tally keeps climbing. 200,000 Russian service personnel killed in Ukraine as of June 2026. That's not a guess. The research points to somewhere between 65,000 and 235,000, with the middle ground settling around 200,000. Total casualties, including the wounded, are approaching 1 million. These aren't abstract numbers. Mothers, wives, daughters, and sons are losing fathers, husbands, brothers. 100,000 funerals. 200,000 families unable to speak with the dead, unable to hold a closed coffin or a last goodbye. In many cases, there is no body to bury. For a grieving mother in a Russian city, that void is unbearable. And so, when she learns that a service can convert her son's last messages, his voice, his face, into a video where he walks toward the light and speaks her name one last time, the mathematics of grief makes the choice seem obvious. The service costs less than a monument. The video feels like one final conversation. But this is where the story turns. Because those videos aren't just personal keepsakes. They're becoming something much larger. The service itself goes by names like Video Farewell. Launched in 2023, it strips the process down to a transaction. You upload a photo, a voice recording, a message your son or husband wanted left behind. Someone codes your grief into a 3-minute memorial. Individual neuro-creators operate mostly on Telegram and vKontakte. Think Russian WhatsApp and Facebook rolled together. They're not corporations. They're practitioners who discovered a market and are pricing it accordingly. 30 for voice synthesis, another 30 for animation, sometimes more depending on video length. Some charge a few hundred rubles, others thousands. The ones doing this well. One creator, known as Aliana, started after losing her own brother in the fighting, can process 40 to 50 requests a day. That's 40 to 50 families. That's 40 to 50 conversations with the dead. The math isn't complicated. At 50 videos a day, at even 50 per video, you're looking at 2,500 daily. Aliana reportedly earns up to 55,000 rubles, roughly 730 a day. Not all creators operate at that scale, but the infrastructure is there. The demand is there. And the strange part, nobody's tried to stop it. WIK, Telegram, vKontakte, Russian social media. Watch the orange data flow through the pipeline. A widow uploads her husband's WhatsApp messages, years of chat history. An LLM learns his language patterns, generates his personality. Meanwhile, voice recordings get synthesized into audio. Photos and video frames feed into a deepfake engine. All 3 streams converge: words, voice, image. The output is a memorial video where the dead soldier walks, talks, and embraces his family one final time. The entire process takes hours. One final time. But here's the legal problem. Russia's data protection law, Federal Law 152FZ, explicitly requires informed consent before anyone processes your personal data, your voice, your face, your biometric markers. Except for one thing. The law says very clearly, it doesn't apply to the dead. A deceased person has no legal standing to protect their own data. That means no one owns the right to stop this. Russia has no right of publicity statute like California has, where a celebrity's estate can sue if their likeness gets sold without permission. Russia has no AI deepfake law specifically banning the reconstruction of the dead. The regulatory gap exists in plain sight. Lawyers call it a gray zone. When you're dead, your image belongs to nobody and everybody, simultaneously. A widow can authorize the video. A researcher could too, theoretically. The Russian state could claim copyright. None of these actors has clear priority, and nothing in Russian law settles the dispute. For the creators running these services, that legal void is permission. They operate. They profit. Families commission their dead, and no enforcement action has touched them yet. The system grinds on in the space between law and mourning. WIK, Russian Government Legal System, Moscow. The system grinds on in the space between law and mourning. But there's another kind of law, theological law, that cuts even deeper. The Russian Orthodox Church teaches that the soul is fully conscious after death. It doesn't sleep. It doesn't fade. It waits, aware, for the final resurrection, the moment when body and soul reunite. That's the promise at the heart of Orthodox theology. The Church prays for the dead because those dead are listening. In January 2025, Patriarch Kirill, the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church, warned the State Duma that artificial intelligence itself risks becoming the red carpet for the Antichrist's grand entrance. He was speaking broadly about deepfakes and synthetic media. But the soldier memorial videos represent a direct collision between that theology and the technology. Because if the soul of a deceased soldier is conscious, watching, waiting, then what is the AI copy? Is it an echo? A prayer? A prayer? A simulacrum that insults the real soul by pretending to carry its consciousness. Orthodox doctrine has no answer. The Church has not condemned the videos explicitly. It has simultaneously declared that soldiers killed in the war have their sins absolved, giving them a kind of martyrological status. But it hasn't addressed the videos directly. That silence, in a church that speaks on almost everything, is itself a message. Is itself a message. Wiki, Russian Orthodox Church Cathedral, Moscow. That silence is itself a message, and it points to the Kremlin. The Kremlin isn't funding these services, they're not creating them, but they're allowing them and quietly encouraging them because the videos serve a larger agenda, martyrological propaganda. A dead soldier who walks toward heaven in a uniform and delivers a patriotic farewell becomes a symbol of noble sacrifice. The video circulates on Telegram, on VKontakte, reinforcing the narrative that these deaths are meaningful, sacred, honored by the state. Families grieve, but the grief becomes part of the war effort. The loss becomes heroic. The Kremlin retains absolute power to shut the services down if the messaging becomes strategically risky, if casualty acknowledgement becomes an embarrassment, if families begin using the videos not as martyrdom testimonies but as accusations. Here's my son, dead because of this war. The state could ban it overnight. What we're witnessing is a kind of tacit bargain. The Kremlin permits soldier resurrection videos as long as they reinforce state narratives. The moment they threaten those narratives, they'll disappear. It's a double-edged tool. Grief tech, deployed as statecraft, allowed to flourish because it serves power, but vulnerable the instant it becomes destabilizing. The system works until it doesn't. The system works until it doesn't. But this problem isn't unique to Russia. In 2020, South Korea released a documentary called Meeting You. It followed families who used AI to recreate the dead, to see them, speak with them, say goodbye. The tech is not new, it's spreading. The United States is building its own grief tech industry. Companies are offering to encode a deceased person's personality, their language, their patterns into a chatbot that family members can talk to for years after death. It's marketed as closure. It's also marketing. But here's the gap. No country has written a binding law about this. Europe's GDPR data protection regulation explicitly excludes the dead, leaving no legal protection for posthumous digital identity. The EU's AI Act, which started enforcement in 2025, doesn't address deep fakes of the deceased. The United States hasn't enacted the No Fakes Act, a bill introduced in 2024 to give all people, living and dead, the right to control their digital likenesses. As of June 2026, it's still pending. There is no international treaty, no global rule, no framework that says who owns a dead person's image, what consent looks like after death, or how to separate genuine mourning from algorithmic exploitation of grief. The vacuum isn't accidental. It exists because the technology moved faster than law. Wartime Russia is a glimpse of that future. 200,000 dead, 40 to 50 memorial videos a day, families processing grief through screens, the state using those screens for messaging, the law silent, the church uncertain, the technology indifferent. Across the world, synthetic media is moving from experimental to abundant. Deepfakes that take months to create can now be rendered in hours. Voice cloning is cheap. Face swapping is trivial. And every year it gets faster, better, cheaper to build an AI copy of a dead person. The question isn't whether it will happen more. It's already happening. The question is, what happens when entire populations begin using synthetic media to mourn? When the dead become data, and the data becomes subject to whoever controls the platform, the algorithm, the database. Will grief remain private? Will it become a commodity? Will nations use resurrection services as tools of control, as the Kremlin appears to be doing? Will the framework for digital personhood catch up? Or will we spend the next decade arguing about whose soul it is, who has the right to copy, and whether consent means anything when the person being copied is beyond speaking? That argument starts now. The legal vacuum we understand now, that's the ground on which the next decade builds. And the answer we land on will shape whether the dead remain their own people or become raw material for whoever holds the technology. The dead are waking up as data. Who owns them and what we do about it might be the biggest digital rights question of the decade. If you want to stay ahead of what's coming, like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm David.